The Bunyip is a creature from the Aboriginal mythology of southeastern Australia, said to lurk in swamps, billabongs, creeks, riverbeds, and waterholes. The origin of the word Bunyip has been traced to the Wemba or Wurgai language of the Aboriginal people of Victoria, in southeastern Australia. 1, 2, 3, 4. The word Bunyip is usually translated by Aboriginal Australians today as devil or evil spirit. 5. This contemporary translation may not accurately represent the role of the Bunyip in pre-contact Aboriginal mythology or its possible origins before written accounts were made. Some modern sources allude to a linguistic connection between the Bunyip and Bunjil, a mythic great man who made the mountains, rivers, man, and all the animals. 6. The word Bunyip first appeared in the Sydney Gazette in 1812. 7. It was used by James Ives to describe a large black animal like a seal, with a terrible voice which creates terror among the blacks. The Bunyip is part of traditional Aboriginal beliefs and stories throughout Australia, while its name varies according to tribal nomenclature. 9. In his 2001 book, writer Robert Holden identified at least 9 regional variations of the creature known as the Bunyip across Aboriginal Australia. The Bunyip has been described as amphibious, almost entirely aquatic. 11a inhabiting lakes, rivers. 12 swamps, lagoons, billabongs. 6 creeks, waterholes. 13 sometimes particular waterholes in the riverbeds. There have been various attempts to understand and explain the origins of the Bunyip as a physical entity over the past 150 years. Writing in 1933, Charles Fenner suggested that it was likely that the actual origin of the Bunyip myth lies in the fact that from time to time seals have made their way up the Murray and Darling rivers. He provided examples of seals found as far inland as Overland Corner, Loxton, and Conargo, and reminded readers that the smooth fur, prominent apricot eyes, and the bellowing cry are characteristic of the seal. 22 Especially southern elephant seals and leopard seals. During the early settlement of Australia by Europeans, the notion became commonly held that the Bunyip was an unknown animal that awaited discovery. Unfamiliar with the sights and sounds of the island continent's peculiar fauna, early Europeans believed that the Bunyip described to them was one more strange Australian animal, and they sometimes attributed unfamiliar animal calls or cries to it. Scholars suggest also that 19th-century Bunyip lore was reinforced by imported European folklore, such as that of the Irish puka. In January 1846, a peculiar skull was taken by a settler from the banks of Murrumbidgee River near Balranald, New South Wales. Initial reports suggested that it was the skull of something unknown to science. 33 The squatter who found it remarked, all the natives to whom it was shown called it a Bunyip. 34 By July 1847, several experts, including W. S. Maclay and Professor Owen, had identified the skull as the deformed fetal skull of a foal or calf. 35 At the same time, the purported Bunyip skull was put on display in the Australian Museum, Sydney, for 2 days. Visitors flocked to see it, and the Sydney Morning Herald reported that many people spoke out about their Bunyip sightings. 36 Reports of this discovery used the phrase Kine Prady as well as Bunyip. 37 Explorer William Havel, who examined the skull, also called it a Cadenpie. In an article titled, The Bunyip, a newspaper reported on the drawings made by Edwin Stockler as he travelled on the Murray and Goulburn rivers. Amongst the latter drawings we noticed a likeness of the Bunyip, or rather a view of the neck and shoulders of the animal. Mr. Stockler informs us that the Bunyip is a large freshwater seal, having 2 small pedals or fins attached to the shoulders, a long swan-like neck, a head like a dog, and a curious bag hanging under the jaw, resembling the pouch of the pelican. The animal is covered with hair, like the platypus, and the color is a glossy black. Mr. Stockler saw no less than 6 of these curious animals at different times. His boat was within 30 feet of one near Mgyres Punt on the Goulburn, and he fired at the Bunyip, but did not succeed in capturing him. The smallest appeared to be about 5 feet in length, and the largest exceeded 15 feet. The head of the largest was the size of a bullock's head, and 3 feet out of water. After taking a sketch of the animal, Mr. Stockler showed it to several blacks of the Goulburn tribe, who declared that the picture was Bunyip's brother, meaning a duplicate or likeness of the Bunyip. The animals moved against the current, at the rate of about 7 miles an hour, and Mr. Stockwell states that he could have approached close to the specimens he observed, had he not been deterred by the stories of the natives concerning the power and fury of the Bunyip, and by the fact that his gun had only a single barrel, and his boat was of a very frail description. 42. The description varied across newspaper accounts. The Great Bunyip question seems likely to be brought to a close, as a Mr. Stockler, an artist and gentleman, who has come up the Murray in a small boat, states that he saw one, and was enabled to take a drawing of this vexed question, but could not succeed in catching him. We have seen the sketch, and it puts us in mind of an hybrid between the water mole and the great sea serpent. 43. Mr. Stockler, an artist, and his mother are on an expedition down the Murray, for the purpose of making some faithful sketches of the views on this fine stream, as well as of the creatures frequenting it. I have seen some of their productions, and as they portray localities with which I am well acquainted, can pronounce the drawings faithful representations. Mother and son go down the stream in a canoe. The lady paints flowers, and the son devotes himself to choice views on the river's side. One of the drawings represents a singular creature, which the artist is unable to classify. It has the appearance in miniature of the famous sea serpent, as that animal is described by navigators. Mr. Stockler was about 25 yards distant from it at first sight as it lay placidly on the water. On being observed, the stranger set off, working his paddles briskly, and rapidly disappeared. Captain Caudale has tried to solve the mystery, but is not yet satisfied as to what the animal really is. Mr. Stockler states that there were about 2 feet of it above water when he first saw it, and he estimated its length at from 5 to 6 feet. The worthy captain says, that unless the creature is the musk drake, so called from giving off a very strong odor of musk, he cannot account for the novelty. 44. Stockler disputed the newspaper descriptions in a letter, stating that he never called the animal a bunyip, it did not have a swan-like neck, and he never said anything about the size of the animal as he never saw the whole body. 45. He went on to write that all would be revealed in his diorama, as an almost life-size portrait of the beast would be included. The diorama took him 4 years to paint and was reputed to be a mile, 1.6 kilometers, long and made of 70 individual pictures. The diorama has long since disappeared and may no longer exist.